Hey everybody, welcome. Steve and Tony here again. We're here to talk about, our new program, talk to you and help show you some value and how you can create miracle results in your life. So life, business, your practice, your career, whatever that is. Now we're specifically mostly talking towards coaches, but if you're not a coach, I guess this will definitely work for you as well. So Steve, you had something in mind today. What was it you really wanted to talk about today?
I wanted to talk about client enrollment and why you're not doing it if you're a coach. And this does work. This works really well. Even if you're a small business owner or maybe you have a home-based business, it all works the same. And I think what's interesting is that we talked so briefly about this last week, and we just touched upon it. We never really created the distinction between it. And that's the different areas of who we are when we're showing up for our clients. And so, by the way, if you see me twinge or cringe, I hurt my neck real bad last week, and it's not constant anymore. But man, does it like to show up with a nice little bang! And so, if you see me go like this, I don't have a sudden tick all of a sudden. So there's different ways we deliver our message, right? And Tony and I have had the honor and privilege to talk to coaches all over the planet, and it's interesting to listen to, be with, and have conversations with, and it's really powerful in how people show up. However, there's an experience and then there's not an experience, and the not experience isn't a bad thing. It's not wrong. However, when you're looking to create something powerful for somebody, it's about creating the experience. So last week we talked about just briefly touched upon teachers, trainings, consultants, but I wanted to spend just a moment here and create the distinction there on the power in between the three, and then distinguish them from coaching. See, if you look at teaching, right, I have several clients that are teachers, incredible people. Man, that's a job that is not, there's not a salary big enough for a teacher. But it's teaching, it's if you look at the dictionary, it's teaches or someone that causes someone else to know something. And I thought, wow, you can't get any better than that, right? I've had some incredible teachers. One of my teachers that I had for about 10 years of my life was my martial arts instructor. But he was also a coach. We'll get to that in a second. Woo, there it is. So we have people that have taught you great things. Tony and I bounce back and forth with different ideas that we have, and then we create insights around it. But you can also hear teaching also creates insights. But it's the insights that's the powerful coaching part, which we'll get to in a minute. But if you want to be taught something, you can go on Google, YouTube. You can read a good book. You can listen to some audios. If you want some of that stuff, Tony and I have libraries and libraries and libraries of that kind of stuff. And the most powerful thing about it is you learn a lot of good stuff, right? Nothing right or wrong about it, but there's a difference between that and coaching. Then we have trainers, right? Teachers, by the way, are very specific in their field, mostly. In fact, Tony and I have a good friend, Mark Nelson. I'm pretty sure he can teach anything because that guy's just really smart. And he could do all kinds of powerful stuff. And he actually implements coaching he was implementing coaching in there, and that's where he took his students to another level, which is just amazing. Then we have trainers, right? So I was a personal trainer, became certified back in 2004, and a trainer is to teach as to make fit or to give instruction to a particular skill. Now, there's a lot more specific, right? So I can say that my mom's mom, trained me on how to write perfect English cursive, right? She's from Britain. Man, she had... there should be books written on how well she wrote. So you take a look at that. Also a personal trainer, right? So it shows you how to work out. And they're with you, not saying, hey, how would you do that different? It's more about correcting your arm placement, doing different things and moving your arm to get that specific type of result. And then we have consultants. Consultants are very specific in an area, same as teachers and trainers, except for now they're bringing in another set of skills, and they're actually using your data as well as teaching and training. So you can hear how these different aspects all have incredible value, do incredible things. However, it's different from coaching because, man, I don't want to get ahead of us here, man. But what we end up doing is what stops a lot of coaches is we like to tell things. Let me tell you the possibilities that I can create for you, right? Because the interesting thing, and Tony could probably attest to this, once you see a possibility in somebody, it is really hard to keep our mouth shut. Once you see it, you're like, oh, I just want to tell them. I just want to tell you where you could be. I could tell you, it's not even a sort of possibility. This is going to happen if we just follow the steps. And we end up doing a lot of telling and telling the person what's possible. And then when they bring something up, telling them how to fix it. And when we look at, if you hear what I'm saying, there's nothing wrong with this. But what we butt up against is you're making me feel wrong right now for everything I've done in my life. You're making me feel wrong for the steps that I'm looking to improve my life. And when that shows up, now it's an experience, all right, but it's not an insightful experience. It's a battle experience, which leads us to how we look. Tony, you want to jump in here real quick? Why do we do this?
So you've heard Steve give the distinctions about, teacher, trainer, consultant, and those are great things, like Steve mentioned. However, those are primarily talking roles where you're speaking and you're talking about yourself, like Steve was talking about. And when it comes specifically to finding new clients, especially in the coaching world or even in the consulting world, is doing more listening. It's doing more listening. And so, like Steve said about how you look, we're so concerned about us putting out a level of authority or how concerned we are with how people are going to think of us. We're in that fear of, oh, I hope they like me. I hope they like me. I hope they like what I can offer. I hope they like what I can do for them. That, like Steve said, we're telling them what they can do. And it's hard for us to keep our big mouth shut sometimes and just go verbally regurgitate all over them and give them all the stuff that we think we know they need. And we haven't even heard them yet. We haven't even heard them. So it's super important that when you're first speaking with somebody, and especially when you move into an enrollment conversation, and we may or may not talk about it today versus, first time call, second time call, even third time call, because I rarely talk enrollment on a first call. Rarely. Sometimes it happens, but almost never. And because we're too busy learning. And that's where, asking questions is one of the best things you can do. With some of my clients, one of the things that before I say that, so one of the things most people don't realize is that listen and silent have exactly the same letters, just rearranged. Because you can't do one without being the other. So you can't be listening if you're not being silent.
Yeah.
And so I share that with clients and with other folks that are listening. And one of the things I suggest with my clients, and I have to even get into the habit of practicing sometimes myself, or I catch myself, is set a timer. If you're having a first time call with somebody, set a timer, whether it's on your phone, on your computer, for 10 minutes. And you can do nothing but talk. You can do nothing but ask questions for the first 10 minutes. And in that time, there's a lot of times where you might say, hey, you get into a conversation like where it may lead to a path of where they ask you a question. You're like, hey, so what's going on in your world? And they tell you, and then they end with, and you, or they try to turn it back to you. And that's the moment where it's the hardest to maintain that. And oftentimes it's one of those where you're like, you know what? I really enjoyed hearing about that project you got going on. Can you elaborate on that a little more? Keep them talking. Do not talk about yourself for at least the first 10 minutes. And when you do that, you find that you probably go longer than 10 minutes, because now you might ask another question. Oh, I heard something there. Now I'm going to ask another question about that. And before you know it, you're an hour into a call and you've maybe spoken for 5 minutes of that, 10 minutes of that. But you got to know that person. You really got to know who that person is. And you threw out the window what you were worried about, what they thought of you, and helped learn what it was that was really important to them and how you can help them grow. Am I on the right path here, Steve?
Yeah, spot on, brother.
So really, when it comes to getting clients, there's so many of those. And I've been on the call. So I'm one of those folks that when somebody reaches out to me, unless it's clear that they're not somebody that can help me, I have no problem getting on a call and having a conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
However, if somebody on that said call does all the talking, usually you feel it in the first 5 or 10 minutes that this is not going to be a good fit, So don't be that. Don't be that person. Don't be that person here. Yeah. Yes. Well, that's a good point there too. All right, Steve. So what do you have to add to that I've mentioned so far?
Well, and I can't see, it just says Facebook user. It says here's what you need to do instead of here's how it worked for me. And even that is steps above saying what's going on with them. Here's this is what you should be doing, right? And that's a lot of coaches look for scripts, and I love that here's what worked for me. And sometimes I've actually had the response of, well, I'm not you. I'm like, totally got it. I totally, you know what? You're right. And what you can hear how the steps of progression go, right? We want to get the onus off of us and the onus onto them. So the power of question is what Tony's talking about is so incredible, because I mean, if you look, the people are like, give me your top 5 questions. I can tell you the 2 of them. Tell me more, and can you elaborate on that? Those are my 2 most favorite questions. Like, that's it. Can you just tell me a little bit more? And it's like, all right. Then all of a sudden, you'll notice most of the time we have such superficial conversations with each other as people. Like this pain was so bad yesterday. I was just delirious. And I asked Danielle 3 times, how was your day? And she's like, it was good. And then she responded to me. And I saw by her face, I went, I asked you that already, didn't I? And she's like, yep. So, when we're having the conversations with people, if we're not being present with the response, not that just that they're responding or just present to where they are, right, to go deeper into it, then we're missing the boat. We're missing powerful, deep, such connection in conversation and such connection in relationship. I don't know. Is that the same person? So clarify.
I think so. Clarity, please. Clarity, please.
So I think the clarity is, here's how it worked for me, is that the you don't understand shows up. You don't understand, Steve. You have such a great relationship with your wife and your boys, and you don't understand because my relationship is this way or my business is this way. I have this learning disability, or I have this going on and this going on. So the you don't understand, they show up a lot, and it's nothing good or bad about it. But what we do is we end up getting hung up on it. I don't call them excuses, but there are validations on, and it's holding us back. That's one of my other questions is, all right, beautiful. I love what you just said. Can you give me your validations of how this isn't working for you? And then they'll speak, and I will say 7 to 8 times out of 10, it sounds like I'm making up excuses. Like, well, can you tell me more about that? and it becomes, you can feel the humor in it, right?
Right.
Because we recognize it like instantaneously, but because it's not in the forefront of our mind, we got caught up in it. And this goes to what we're going to talk about next here. Hopefully that create a little bit more clarity there. Man, I wish I could see who it is.
I know.
StreamYard. So where we get hung up as coaches and clients is this concern of either looking bad or being wrong.
Right.
And this is where the telling comes in so powerfully, is that instead of being with the client, we're searching for what next to say. And I'll be honest with you, people ask me all the time, how did we get here? I'm like, that's a great question. I have to look back and see. I have no idea. And when people ask me, what are our intentions today? I'm like, I don't have an intention.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where are we going? I'm like, I don't know.
Right.
What do you want? Like what would make today powerful for you? Well, last time we talked about this, is that the same thing? So we keep, yes. And I think if you're asking is individual or groups coaching, I've coached 50 people the exact same way I've coached one person. But yeah, we get so caught up in this looking bad and feeling wrong that we banter around the truth with ourselves, not even this way.
Right.
And it's, oh no, I'm losing control of the conversation here. They seem upset. So I need to come up with something profound or some philosophical view that's going to make this all better. And we don't know. As a coach, you shouldn't know what the next question is ever. You can always have your favorites. Like I have a group, I have probably, I don't know, somewhere 8 or 10 questions. And it's usually because I'm losing focus on what's here. I'm like, oh yeah, I can see it now. And I'm not looking to tell or teach. I'm looking to ask another powerful question. Because a true powerful question isn't to create a powerful answer. A true powerful question is to create another powerful question, to create another powerful insight. This is going to create another powerful session. The coaching is so ongoing and so strong and so in depth that the conversation, literally, the reason we put an hour or a 90-minute cap on it, because that conversation can just go on until you pass out from hunger or you have to go to the toilet. And Tony and I have been on calls. It was like, man, we're both hopping up and down in our seats. I'm like, I got to go pee. It's like, oh, thank God. We got to pause the recording.
Right.
We both run to the toilet and come back. And we just resume that powerful conversation.
Right.
So, so the reason, look, I was asked several times since Danielle and I have been married now. It'll be 20 years this year. And we haven't had an argument in over 10 years. And people are like, how do you do that? I'm like, we ask each other questions. We don't just assume we know what the person's talking about. We don't assume that if the person's upset or angry or frustrated or quiet or silent or whatever, that it's about us.
Right.
And I just ask, I'm like, hey, you doing all right? Yeah, I'm doing all right. All right, cool. And sometimes they'll be like, just making sure it wasn't about me. I was being a little selfish here. I want to make sure you're okay. And like that kind of conversation changes everything. The same thing with our boys. I got to tell you, there were times that I just lost my poop on our kids. And I never asked the question, did you do this? And then I'll find out later, hey, and it would be from Danielle. Andrew came up to me and said that you said this and then he got in trouble for it. I'm like, yeah. She's like, it wasn't him. It was Tyler. I'm like, awesome. And all I did was I just thought I saw.
Right.
So in the coaching space, before I go off on this wild tangent, Tony said something so powerful, and it's in the silence. Because in the silence, there's thinking going on. And the thoughts are it's called thoughting, going from one thought to another thought to another thought. And you're not the only one doing it. Mm-hmm. If you can be present with your person and just watch, all of a sudden they'll be like, yeah, so this, and this happened today. Yeah, let me tell you, after that, like, oh, here we go. This is what I wanted to hear. I didn't want to hear about what happened. I wanted to know how it impacted you.
Right.
And you could ask, but now you're sometimes even a too soon question is enabling them to lean on you, mm-hmm. which is great to a certain extent. But we as human beings, we were created to be active thinkers. We're not created to, hey, I wonder what the answer to this is. And before we even put the question mark on the statement, we've already picked up our phone and we're already looking up the answer. Instead of just being with the question for a few moments.
Right.
So we're taking ourselves, and we're not doing it on purpose. We're making ourselves small. Mm-hmm. And that hurts because that's an incomplete human being. And that's where that discomfort feels like. And you're like, I don't know what's going on. I just feel uncomfortable. So like something's missing. Right. Well, what's missing is our own ability to actively think and create solutions to what's going on. Mm-hmm. And look, I'm going to be honest with you. I have a coach, and I'm also in a group coaching program. I'm the client, right? And I'm in there on purpose, right?
Me too.
Because I don't know everything. I just don't. But an insight, all of a sudden, I had an insight the other day that I'm not even kidding, that will take my coaching program in my town that I live in right now, and it will spread like wildfire.
Nice.
It was an insight that I had 3 weeks ago. Didn't even know it was there. And I knew the answer the entire time. It was the perfectly asked question.
Nice.
So anyways, looking bad and avoiding, being wrong.
Yeah. So by the way, Steve, Facebook user is actually Hugh, our friend Hugh.
Oh, what's up, Hugh?
Brother. He's watching through one of the other groups, so it's not showing the actual name here.
Oh, right on.
But I had to go into the other group. I'm like, oh, that's who it is.
I should have known with the insightful questions.
Right? So before we move on, guys, like we mentioned before, so Steve and I partnered up. We've got this new group coaching program coming out. There's very, very limited spots. I think we've only got 5 left. And this is going to be very tight knit. We want to keep it very, very small so that it is more like individual coaching, even though it's in a group setting. And we're going to be mostly coaches helping you find clients and helping you do so authentically, like we're sharing here. How you can really find those clients and find those clients that are right for you, not just the next client, but the next great client. And I love what Steve was talking about there about the listening and what's behind that. When you say, hey, tell me about your day, and that person starts talking, one of the other things when you take that extra second, and I love how Steve took a sip of his water, because that's super powerful. I mean, I usually have a cup of tea or something here, and I'll do the sip. I'll do the, because it's a delay method for you. Doesn't look like you're delaying, but it allows them that extra opportunity.
Good hydration too.
Yeah, hydration. But what's interesting about it is they're not giving you the whole story when they give you that first 30-second overview. And then when you get into that, when you wait that extra couple minutes or 30 seconds or whatever it takes, and they move on with the story, you can see the shift in their being, their body, the loosening up. They're like, I let it out. There it is. You can physically see the shift. You can see the uptightness while they're first giving you the 30-second overview. And then when they let it out, it's like shoulders drop. They're there and they're letting it out. That right there, seeing that shift in that person's being, you're getting the real person. You're getting the information. You may not get all of it, but you're getting enough to really let them break down that wall. That wall is coming down. They're opening themselves up to you, and you have the opportunity to truly help that person change that aspect of their life, whatever that is that they just shared with you.
Yeah. And
it's amazing. Or when you have a conversation and you're able to help guide somebody to an aha moment. The physical look, if you're truly present with that person, like Steve was talking about earlier, present with that conversation, you can see as somebody's talking to you, you may not even be speaking. In fact, you're likely not. And they're just talking through something that you had shared or you had discussed. And all of a sudden you can see that light bulb go off, and they stop. I can't count how many times, just Steve and I talking to each other, where we'll sit here and look at, one of us will look at the other and say, hey, did you just see the shift you had right there? Did you see your physical shift that happened right there when you had that aha moment, that insight? And you'll see that with your clients. Now when we talked earlier about the asking questions in an enrollment conversation or leading up to an enrollment conversation, those aha moments are super important.
Yeah.
You're basically coaching for your first call, or first part of it, you're getting to know somebody, but essentially you're coaching that person. And if you can help that person get one of those aha moments or get to that wow moment, that is when it's time to go on to an enrollment conversation. Yeah. Again, maybe not on that call, but that that's a person that you want to have that conversation with.
Can I share a quick story? Take about a minute.
Please.
Cool. So I was on the call with a really great coach this morning. And I'm listening to her speak, and we just met. We met on not Facebook. Hey, Terrence. We met not on Facebook. And today was our fourth conversation, because I wasn't ready for that. And I wasn't ready to step into the space of, hey, let's work together. But today was the day. We could both feel it happening.
Right. And
so I'm talking to her, and I said, well, what would be something that would be just so powerful for you today? She's like, I'd like a breakthrough in my life. I'm like, that sounds awesome. Where? And she's like, in my coaching business. I'm like, beautiful. I said, about what? And she's like, I'm not creating any clients. I'm like, okay, cool. We discussed it for about 10 minutes. And then I asked one question. I said, tell me how you're doing. Like, if I hired you to coach me today, and today was our very first call, what would it be like? Just tell me about it. And she outlined the whole thing. I'm like, man, this is really good stuff. Like, this is good stuff. And I said, what would it be like if that was your enrollment conversation? And she went, oh my gosh. I've been telling people, telling them about their possibilities that we're going to create on our coaching calls when we work together.
Yep.
And I'm like, and how's it working? And she's like, it didn't work at all. And she's like, so I said, so why don't you just go in there and use exactly what you just said, coach your butt off for like an hour. maybe 90 minutes. Shoot, some of my calls go an hour, hour and a half. It's fantastic.
Yep.
And I said, and then, you know, we created a way to bring in coaching without saying, hey, would you like to buy my stuff? And we created something more powerful than that. And she sat back and I said, so where are we in our call today? And she said, I'm good. I'm tapped out. And I asked a very, very, a very cool way of asking if the person wants to work with me. And the way she responded to me was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah.
Which that's between her and I like to keep stuff confidential.
Absolutely.
And the reason I say what I say is because I could have easily, Tony and I have coached coaches for I don't know how long. And here's an interesting thought. I could have given her my enrollment thing on how I do my enrollment conversations, and it would have taken about 10 minutes. And she would have said, all right, that sounds great. Then she'd have to remember it all. Oh, crap, where am I in the conversation? Am I here? And then she's got to do all that stuff instead of doing exactly what she already knows to do. And think about that for a minute. Imagine you could have the life that you want and just the life that you want, whatever that is, knowing what you already know and just implementing it this way instead of this way.
Right.
I feel like Tony's having a nuclear meltdown over there.
Right.
That's how coaching works. Coaching works not from us teaching or telling or consulting. It has us bring up what you already know in a way that's like, man, if I did that there instead of that there, which it's not our idea, my life could be this way, which is actually where I want to be instead of over here, which this is good enough. We convince ourselves good enough is enough, which you have to figure out if that's good for you, where you can actually have the life that you want, whether you're a coach or you're a client, whatever that looks like.
Right. Right.
Sorry, that was more than a minute long story. That was 3.
That's all right. And so again, before I move on, I got one last thing too, one last little bit. But don't forget, guys, like we talked about earlier, Steve and I have partnered up for a new group called Create Your Miracle Result, and we're really helping you create that miracle result, especially coaches. We want to help you fill your calendar with clients authentically through these conversations we're talking about, and really learn the methods that work. And so one thing that, we talked about here, and Steve was talking about how he asked a certain way about moving forward with something with that client potentially. The other thing is, don't be in a hurry to move into that conversation. I had a recent client who was they're like, I need more enrollment conversations. I said, hold on, let's evaluate that. Say that again. I need more enrollment conversations. I said, cool. How do you get to enrollment conversations? Well, I get people on my calendar. Okay, cool. So how do you do that? And so finally, when we got down to it, we found out that this person was literally pushing for enrollment on the first call without establishing whether it was a good fit or not, and it was just like, he was forcing it. Don't force it. Take that out of the picture. Take out whether it's going to be a new client and just coach your butt off. Like Steve said, coach your butt off. There are ways of asking if you get to that point, but don't be concerned at moving into that conversation on a first call. Or if you are, like Steve said, your call may go an hour and a half. That might go hour, 90 minutes, or sometimes even more. Then maybe you might have that conversation. However, if you're on your normal scheduled time, whether it's 30, 45, 60 minutes, whatever that might be for you, it's okay to say, you know what, I'm really enjoying what we're talking about here. How about we schedule another call? And I'd love to hear more about this. I'm out of time today. And then move on to the next one and get there. And it's, yeah, I'm reading it too here. I'll just see if I can get it on the screen here. There we go. It's going to cover us, but
it's good for us with little eyeballs.
Right.
Shifted everything for me. Is it about me? It's about serving them. I have a beautiful question for Lori.
Yes, please.
What's the story that came up for you that created the anxiety? That's it. You just get to hang out with that. You don't have to answer here. I know sometimes it's a personal question. So James.
What's up, James? Yeah, Lori, that is a great question, and I think you and I are actually overdue for a conversation. Anyway, let's get on a call. Let's chat a little bit more about that. I'd love to hear more, and I love Chris Dorris' stuff, so I'd be more than happy to to have a conversation around that as well. So
That's an awesome idea.
anyway, guys, we are out of time. We said we weren't going to go. We go as long today, and here we are. We're just as long. Steve and I could talk for hours. It's
Supposed to be 15 minutes, by the way. Just gonna throw that out there.
all right, guys. So don't forget the new program, Create Your Miracle Result. If you're interested in learning more about that, reach out to Steve. Reach out to myself. Let's hop on a call. Let's have a conversation and find out if it's even a good fit. And if it is, we'll have another conversation. So make it a great day, everybody, and take care.
See you guys.